Hello, my name is Jason, and today I'm going to be talking about PubMed versus Embase, comparing two healthcare databases. So for today's objectives, I will start with a brief overview of the two databases. I will discuss how they're different and how they're similar. I'll discuss a brief note about AI in these databases. And then I'll do a demonstration, just give you a little bit of an example of how these work. And then finally, I'll conclude with how to find help with using these resources or other medical library tools. So let's start with talking about a little bit about PubMed and Embase and how they're used and are similar. So these are two major biomedical focused databases, and they make a good starting point for general medical research. When I'm starting to look into a topic, I'll typically start with these two tools. Both offer a few things in common. They focus on high quality, peer reviewed research literature. So you'll find better quality sources and material here than you would in Google or even Google Scholar. They both offer you personal accounts, so you can create an account within the database to help your research. So you can save searches, do search alerts, customize your search filters, interface, quite a few things. And it's particularly with PubMed, that's a very useful feature. They both offer abstracts and some full text articles. Embase gives you more full text. But one thing to keep in mind is any of the articles that you find in here, even if they're not full text in the resource, you have interlibrary loan to help you acquire those articles, or you can reach out to your medical librarian to get the full text as well. Both offer a few different types of searches, including a basic search where you can just type in simple keywords and run your search. But they both offer advanced searches too, which include the ability to search for specific fields, customized search interfaces, things like that. And both offer what's called subject term searching. In PubMed, you have medical subject headings or MESH, and in Embase, you have Mtree. And we'll talk a little bit more about how subject terms are different from keywords in a few minutes. They both offer specialized searching, so preset search filters that allow you to do a more focused search. And again, we'll talk more about those. And they both offer citation exporting. So when you find an article in these, and it doesn't have to be full text, they both allow you to export that citation information into bibliographic management tools like EndNote, RefWorks, Zotero, any of those. And they do a much better job of it than you would find in Google Scholar. So first with PubMed, this is perhaps the most popular of the medical focused databases, partly because it's a free tool, a free database. A lot of the other databases require a paid subscription, but PubMed is free to all, and it's a comprehensive database based on Medline indexing from the National Library of Medicine in the U.S. And it covers a range of different topics: general medicine, nursing, dentistry, many others. And it goes back quite far, with over 30 million article citations, so not necessarily full text, but at least citations from a wide range of journals in different languages, although compared to Embase, it has a little more of an American focus. And though it's been a few years now, if you haven't used it in a while, you'll see that the interface was changed, although parts of it do still have the old PubMed look to it. By comparison, Embase is a paid subscription database. So as somebody affiliated with KU, you won't have to pay, but just so you're aware that the university and the library are paying for your access to it. So most people will not be able to access it. But it's from a private company, Elsevier. And as they're European, some feel that it gives a little more focus to Europe and Asia. Like PubMed, it covers general medicine, but it also has some good focused areas in things like pharmacology, drug research, medical devices, etc. And as we'll see, those include specialized search tools. Like PubMed, it has quite an extensive list of records, 32 million plus. Again, not all full text, but compared to PubMed, you will find more full text here. It has some overlap with PubMed, so it includes the Medline indexing, but it has its own as well. So even though there is some overlap, these two databases still complement each other quite well. Now, as far as the differences between them, we've talked a little bit about how they're similar. Let's talk about some differences. As I mentioned, PubMed is free versus paid for Embase. I also mentioned they have different indices, but they do have some overlap via Medline. But they do have different filters. So even though you might be searching some of the same records, because they have different interfaces, different search filters, you will be able to maybe find articles in one search that you wouldn't find in the other. They offer quite different specialized search types. So for example, PubMed has clinical queries, whereas Embase gives you a Pico search. So if you're interested in, say, particularly medical devices, you might start with Embase first. They export citations a little bit differently, but in the end, they produce the same types of files. You can create an RAS file in each, but the way you'll do that is different in each one. And as I mentioned with the subject terms, they have different ones. So you have Mesh in PubMed and Mtree in Embase. And if you're building a search by hand, you'll need to kind of translate your search from one to the other. But that's something your medical librarian can certainly help you with. Now, in a few minutes, I'll demonstrate some basic searches in these two resources. But to preview that, let's talk a little bit about how you search in these. So both of these, you can do a basic search. It's pretty straightforward. So in our example here, we have cancer treatment elderly. We could just type that into both of those and get results. But as you develop your search skills, and particularly if you're doing a search like a literature review, or especially with a systematic review where you want to find a comprehensive focus list of references, you'll want to build more advanced searches. And just so you're aware, and we'll see this as well, these databases can translate your simple search. But even then, it's good to understand exactly how it's translating those searches. So we'll first look at Booleans, and this is something you might be familiar with, but if not, the three most common ones are and, or, and not. And is what you would use by default. So in that example search, cancer treatment elderly, it's putting and between those words, and that's what would happen if you ran that search in Google or Scholar. Or we'll search for either of the terms, and not will take something out. Now, some databases, and Embase is one of these, can also search for near and next. So you can search for two words to be close to each other with near, and with next, they're close to each other in a particular order. There are also advanced search bits that work across different databases, including these. And just to show you a few, little asterisks or little star at the end of a word or phrase like treat would return anything that starts with that. So treatments, treated, treats. The question mark is a wild card that will return any particular letter. So you could get next or nest. And quote marks, if you put them around a phrase, will look for that exact phrase. Otherwise, for example, cancer treatment elderly, we're looking for those three words together, separate, it doesn't matter. But if we put hospice care in quotes, and usually the database is like the straight quotes, not the curly ones there, it'll return only that phrase in that particular order. This also works in Google and Scholar. One thing you need to be careful of when we talk about translations, when you put things in quotes, it blocks or inhibits the database's ability to translate for you. And as I mentioned with the subject terms, mesh and mtree, you'll need to edit those searches for each database. Or if you're using an additional one like CINAHL, it has its own subject term CINAHL headings that would need to be translated for that as well. So let's just take a look at a sample search. And here we're taking what our cancer treatment elderly, but we're going to expand it in some ways and focus it in others. Just to be clear, if you're not familiar with what and or not are doing, there's a little graphic below our example. You can see with and, if yellow are the articles that get returned for our search, if we add more and, so more circles, that yellow is going to get narrower or smaller. So when you start off with your searches, don't make it too focused, don't use too many ands, or you might get 0 hits. Or, which is not often used by people, is actually pretty powerful because it allows you to broaden your search, as you'll see by that yellow area, ensuring that we get articles that talk about the same concept, maybe using different language. So to go back up to our search, so we're searching on cancer or malig. So there's different terms we could use for cancer, malignancy, neoplasms, tumors, either straight synonyms or similar terms, or allows us to search for all of those terms. So if one author is talking about cancer, but another one's talking about malignancies, we'll be sure to get those. Since we're using multiple terms, we'll want to put those in parens. And you can see that malig has a star at the end, so that will return malignant, malignancy, malignancies, anything that starts with that. Next we have our and. So we have treat. We talked about treatment before, but this will return treatments, treated, anything like that. Finally, we have one more and. So we have 3 blocks here. And we're combining, again, some different keywords using or. Elderly or aged or seniors, especially compared to cancer. This is one where different authors will use very different language. And though you don't use not terribly often, here's an example of it. If we want to sort of treatment or care, but not in a hospice environment, we can throw that at the end. Now at the bottom of this slide, you'll see our near and next. Again, this is just for Embase. It will not work in PubMed or Google. So if we do teaching near/5 strategies, it's going to search for those 2 words, teaching and strategies, within 5 words of each other. So we want something related to strategies for teaching. We don't necessarily want to put those in quotes or have them too far apart. But if they're within, say, 5 words of each other, we'll hopefully find all of the citations related to that. You can focus this a little more by using next. You'll see the syntax is very similar. Elderly next/3 program will return anything within 3 words. So we've changed the number there, but they have to be in that exact order. So elderly has to come first. That would return elderly counseling program, but it wouldn't return programs for elderly. So you can build those searches by hand, or you can, if you want, rely on the database to translate those for you. And by translate, what I mean is if we go back to that original basic search, cancer treatment elderly, you'll see that the databases are actually searching for it in a unique way. They're actually doing it in a little more advanced way by translating it. So we have two examples there. We have the top PubMed translation and below it the Embase translation. And you'll see that PubMed can take our words, for example, cancer, and it'll search as a keyword. That's the all fields there in green. But it also will translate it into other keywords. Those are the all field ones. But also into a mesh term. And again, we'll come back to that in a minute. But neoplasms is the specific mesh term in PubMed. We can build that search by hand, type that out by hand, but you can see even a basic simple search will search it if there is a relevant mesh term in a more advanced way, which is something you are not able to do in Scholar, which is only searching keywords. Below that, we see the Embase translation. So again, if we type cancer treatment elderly, it'll search those as individual keywords in green, or as M-tree terms. So those are Embase's equivalent of mesh. And you'll see that in the blue there, where cancer/EXP, that just happens to be the same as the keyword, unlike PubMed. But again, it's translating that for you and doing a little more advanced search to help you out. Again, this is not something that Scholar offers you. Now, another thing to be aware of what's happening kind of behind the scenes in PubMed and Embase that Scholar is not doing is when these article citations are entered into these databases, they are tagged with a particular code. So they're given a specific marker to identify. For example, here we see AB for abstract, TI for title. Now, one thing this allows you to do is to search for words in those specific fields, but it also helps you export the citations more accurately into citation tools. This is something that Scholar doesn't do because it's taking the article information from web pages, maybe sometimes the full text, but that data, that information is a little more messy. So one of the many advantages to using PubMed and Embase is that this is all put into fields like this. Now, I mentioned before about subject terms. So broadly speaking, and you can see this in the box at the bottom, there are two ways to search using these databases. One is the keyword, which is just matching what you type to what's in that the article information we saw on the previous slide. But there are also subject terms, and these are searching more by meaning. So what's happened is these databases have constructed a language, a taxonomy, with broader and narrower terms. And then these terms are assigned to the articles by a human. So rather than just random keywords, which can have shortcomings. So as we saw, if you're talking about the concept of cancer, certain authors might use different language, cancer, neoplasms, malignancies. This allows you to search on the concept rather than keywords. It also gives you the ability to focus your search a little more. So as we see in the search examples up there, start with PubMed. You'll see neoplasms is the mesh term. So we're searching on that concept, not just the keyword. But with the subject terms, you can focus your search a little more. So you'll see that next, therapeutics/ethics. Therapeutics is a mesh term, but some of these will have subheadings. So if we want to only search on the ethics of therapeutics, we can do that. The last one, aged, you'll see is actually a little different. It has MAJR after it. So it's searching it as a mesh term, but only when it's the main focus of the article. So again, a human has indexed, say, a particular article. They've not only decided that it's about the aged, or senior citizens, but it's the main focus. In Embase Mtree, it works kind of the same way. You'll see cancer with the EXP is the Mtree term. But again, we can play around with this and focus our search a little more. So not only are we searching on frail elderly, which is a narrower term of age, like I said, you have broader and narrower terms. The MJ means we're searching it only when it's a major focus of the article. So hopefully the articles that we get back will be more focused on this topic. Subject terms are a little complex, a little challenging to get used to using, but as we saw in the translations, it's actually doing it automatically for you. But generally, it's good to combine these with keywords to build a comprehensive, more advanced search. And again, you have your medical library in there to help you with that. The databases also offer you specialized search tools. Some examples of these are in PubMed. We have the advanced search, although you can see that in other databases and even Scholar itself. But you also have clinical queries, which is a search structure that allows you to search for articles more related to clinical practice questions. They're not clinical reference sources like you get in UpToDate, but hopefully these articles would be more relevant to things like diagnosis and whatnot. The single citation matcher is a good one if you have partial information for an article. You know, you're looking for an article by a particular author. Maybe you have the journal, but you can come in here and fill out the different fields, and then it'll return articles that match that. Embase offers a few more, has its own advanced search, but it also offers a PICO search. If you're familiar with that, your sort of patient, problem, intervention, comparator, and outcome. A pharmacovigilance wizard, a couple of medical device searches, a drug search, and a disease one. So these will allow you to focus your search and hopefully get you more focused answers to these particular topics. So before I continue on with the demonstration, just some brief notes about using these tools with AI, since that's becoming a more popular way of searching. But as far as AI goes, it can help you use these databases or with your searches a few ways. AI is good with helping you think of other keywords. So if I want other search terms for the elderly, it's usually good to produce other keywords, so aged, seniors, things like that. It can possibly help you with subject terms. We'll come back to that in a second. It can help explain exactly what mesh and Mtree terms are. It's also very good with formatting syntax. So if you're building a longer search, you can come paste it into your AI, and if you're missing a quote mark or a parenthesis, it can help you point that out very quickly. Now, what it struggles at or even fails at, I wouldn't trust it really with the mesh and Mtree searches. So it can sometimes help you come up with subject terms, but at the same time, it makes them up. It gives you ones that look like proper terms that actually are not in the databases. And it can't work with those narrower aspects of subject terms like subheadings and et cetera. It isn't perfect. So even though sometimes people want to take the results that it gives you, you're still going to have to proofread what it produces. This is the same with the citation tools. Even though the citation tools are great at, say, giving you a bibliography in APA style, You still have to review those for things like spacing, other formatting things, capitalization. It's no different with AI. You'll need to review the results that you get. Sometimes it just makes things up entirely. If you ask it to give you a list of citations for a particular topic, it'll give you a list of articles. The only problem is sometimes those are completely fake and they do not exist. Why it does that, I don't know. But don't expect it to actually do the research for you, at least not at this point. And ultimately, it doesn't understand the meaning behind your search. It kind of goes back to the difference between keywords and subject terms. But as the human, you know what the meaning is with your search. And especially with medicine, you're dealing with kind of sensitive topics that ultimately will affect patient health. It's up to you to really think about what the information you're looking for is and what to do with it. The AI can help you fill in gaps, like I said, help you with syntax, but at the end of the day, it's not going to understand exactly how you're searching. Okay, so now we'll turn to a demonstration. If you want to follow along, you're welcome to, but I'll just give you a quick overview of the interfaces for PubMed and Embase, and again, their similarities and their differences. Okay, so let's look first at searching PubMed. I'm going to start from the KU Library homepage. I'm going to scroll down and find the link for the medical school library. I'm going to click that. And then I'm going to come down here to popular databases, and you'll see there's a link for PubMed at KU. At the KU, it's a little bit different version of PubMed that allows you to sometimes find the full text links directly to KU. But you can also just go to pubmed.gov, and that'll work as well. Before we start searching, as I mentioned, it's good to have a personal account. I won't sign into mine right now, but because PubMed is free, this is an account that you can keep basically forever. And again, it allows you to do things like search alerts, customize your interface, customize filters. So there's a few good things about that. And also down below, just to highlight, I mentioned clinical queries, single citation matcher. There are those links. And then, though we won't get into it today, the mesh database where you can look up mesh terms. But I'm just going to quickly show you the basics of PubMed. So I'm just going to do my basic search, cancer treatment elderly, and going to hit search. So this is the results page. You can see my search is quite broad. I'm getting almost 1 million hits. So this is a search I should easily could narrow down, refine, either by adding other search terms, using my Booleans, but the other way you can do it is just by using some of the filters over here on the left. So if I want to set this to, say, just the last 10 years, you can do that. You have some other ones down here as well. The one filters, and now we're down to still quite a few, but about 2/3 less. The one filter I would not recommend you use in any of these databases are the full text. Again, not everything in the databases is full text, but even if it's not, remember we can still get those for you through Interlibrary Loan, or I can help you with that. But some other filters, you'll see article type. You can also see additional filters, and so don't miss those. So we can search by language, by age. Some of these have additional ones, so if you search all age filters, you'll see there's more options there. Just be aware of that. So that's one way you can narrow down your results. A couple other things to be aware of here. If I'm signed into my account, I can create a search alert. This is common in databases and even in Google Scholar. But what will happen here is that it'll set that up, run my search automatically in the future for me, and then send me any new articles that match the search screen. You can save your articles, save the references to send to a citation tool or for emailing to somebody. And then over here, just a couple things you can see by sort by. The default is probably the most useful, which is best match, but there's some other ways you can do that. And then the display options. The default is 10, but you can set that to 200, and then you can select how it's formatted. So if you want to see the abstract for all of these, you can. Or if you want it very brief, the PMID, that's short for PubMed identifier. That's a unique number that each article has. You can do that as well. And then down below here, we'll see our list of references. Just to point out a few things, this first one's in brackets, and what that means is the article is going to be in a foreign language, and here you'll see it's in Danish. Now that said, you can still use some of these references because you can see a snippet of the abstract is in English. So sometimes the full article will be in a foreign language, but you can still see the abstract, get an idea of what the article studied, what their conclusions are, even if it's not useful in its entirety. You can get some basic information, the authors, the reference, of course the date, and as I mentioned, that PMID. Feel free to check these, which then again you can save to a citation tool, email, and then sometimes as well you'll see the article type. So here's a review article. It doesn't go into a lot of detail about what the article is. You'd probably have to open it up to see more. And then you'll see the search terms are highlighted. Let's go ahead and open up one of these. I'll just open up that first one, which again is in Danish, but we do have the abstract translated into English for us. You'll see links over here sometimes to the full text. The first one goes to the publisher, which is typically going to ask you to pay, but you don't need to do that. We'll get that for you for a different way. You'll see a link here. It doesn't always work, but hopefully it'll take you to the full text if it's available in one of our databases at KU. And then sometimes as well, you'll see a link for PMC or PubMed Central, which are, for some of these articles, not most of them, full text within PubMed itself. Over here, we'll see the citation, the authors, sometimes you can see their affiliations, the abstract. But if you scroll down, you'll find some other useful tools. So we'll see similar articles. This is something you can get in Scholar, but it's here as well. So if you do find a good article that really kind of nails your topic, it's exactly what you want. Of course, you can do other searches to find other ones, but you can come into that particular article and see similar ones, so you don't have to redo the search. Just be aware it's showing you typically 5, and if there's more, you'll need to click on see all similar articles, and here you can see there's even more. There's 90 there. Sometimes you'll see who's cited it. We'll take a look at another article here in a second maybe. Gives you the publication type. Here are our mesh terms. So these are all the terms that have been assigned to this article by a human. So there's our aged, there's our neoplasms, and you'll see it's focused on neoplasms and also the therapy aspect of it. Let me open up a different one here and see if we can find some other information. So here's a more detailed abstract. Those are similar articles. And here you'll see cited by. And again, it'll show you 5 by default, but you can click on see all cited by to see the full list, which is just 8. The newer articles might not have the cited by. They also might not have the mesh terms because a human hasn't been able to assign those terms yet. But you can see this one does have them, and quite a few. And when you click on these, you can do a search for that in PubMed. You can find the term in mesh so you can see more about it, or you can add it to your search. And maybe just to take a quick look at Mesh since we're here. I'm just going to open that up in Mesh. You can do your search in Mesh from that home page. And what we're doing here is we're actually running a search within Mesh. We're not looking at articles. We're just looking for the terms. We can actually click on this if we want to start building a search and add it to our search builder. But we can open it up and find more information about that Mesh term itself. So we can see when it was added to the Mesh database. We can see the subheadings. There's only 3 here, but sometimes they have quite a few more. As I mentioned, we can search on it as a major topic. We won't get into what exploding and things are, but and then you can see where it is in the hierarchy. So you can see there are broader terms if we want to expand that meaning, or we can narrow it down. So if we just want to focus on 80 and older or frail elderly, we can do that. Now, we added this term from that last page. If we do another search, we can add more terms and build our search that way, just to show you how this might change. So here's aged as just a general Mesh search. But if I want to look at statistics related to the aged and only have that be a major topic, you'll see that it actually changes it. And this syntax can be a little bit complicated to remember and type by hand. So one thing you could do here is either run your search here or highlight and copy this and paste it into your document where you're running that. So we have that here, but like I said, we could come up here and do a search for cancer. And again, it brings up a list of possible matches. We want neoplasms. And what we can do here is just add this to our search builder. We can select the Boolean connector, hit search, and you'll see it kind of builds that for you. And then if you hit search PubMed, it'll run that search. Okay, so that's our brief overview of using PubMed. Okay, so let's do a quick demo of Embase. So I'm back on the library homepage. I'm going to go back to the medical school library. There's a link down here just so we're under resources. There's another link for it there. But I'll just click on this link. And again, it's under our popular databases. There's Embase. And at this point, you might be required to sign in. Let's see if it, I signed in earlier, so hopefully we should be able to just jump in, but you might need to sign in there. So we're on the home page. And you can see here I'm actually signed into my account, which you can create if you want. Like with PubMed, you can save your searches, create search alerts, do some different things like that. Just be aware of the navigation at the top. We can go to our Mtree terms to look those up like we did with Mesh. And then here we have our specialized searches. So our PICO search, our medical device search, general advanced search. So if you want to jump into those, you're able to just to click on the advanced search to show you what it looks like. This will guide you through that. But like with PubMed, we can just do a basic search with our keywords. We just have our 3 keywords. One nice thing about Embase is you can actually see the number of results before you run the search. So you can see our search here is actually quite broad. This is a good sign we can narrow it down. However, if I was going to put a search in there and I was getting 0 results, that's a good sign. We're going to need to go the opposite way, maybe take out some of our search terms or otherwise broaden it. But let's go ahead and run that search. Takes a second. And here, and I didn't show you this in PubMed, how to see the translations, but another nice thing about Embase is that translation is done for you up here. The syntax can look a little bit strange, but at least it's showing you exactly how it's searching. You'll also see your search history here, which is a little bit hidden in PubMed. But otherwise, the look of this is similar. You have our filters over here on the left, and as you'll see, we get quite a few more than we did in PubMed. I'll show you age because we looked at that on the other one. You'll see there's more options here, a couple more, but especially for things like study types, there's much more. And like with PubMed, there's the default ones, but if you click on more, you'll see 5 pages worth of, or was that more? No, yeah, more pages of all the different kinds of study types you can narrow your search by. And some of these are also graphical. So the sources, you'll see it searches PubMed if you wanted, which is the basis of, Medline, which is the basis of PubMed. You can search just that if you want. Just the Embase index, just where they overlap, any of those. So quite a few filters there. The top, we have our search alert, some other things as well as our sorting. This is set, I'm not sure why I set the publication year. I must have used that in my last search, but the default should be relevance, and that's the easiest way to go through your search. When it's set to that, you'll see that our keywords are highlighted nicely, so we can do that. The basic information here is the same. We have our article title, authors, and the basic citation, but you'll also see some links here to view full text and Primo. Primo will take you to the KU Library's search interface where we can sometimes get the full text, or if you see view full text, typically this will take you directly to the full text. Number 3 doesn't look like we have it, but number 1 we probably do. But clicking on the title of the article will open up the article information. Here we have the abstract. You'll typically see that. Some of the entry terms, some of the other terms from the specialized searches, so drugs, diseases, and then kind of the general information down here below, including the DOI, which is a unique number that's used across different resources. But you'll often also see the PMID is in here as well. So you can link to that even though we're not in PubMed. And then you have the ability to export, which is going to send that citation information to your citation tool, as well as send it to a temporary list, and a few other things. So that's our brief overview of Embase. Okay, so that concludes our brief overview of PubMed and Embase. If you need additional help or if you have questions, please feel free to reach out to me. You can contact me by email or on Teams, by phone. You're welcome to just stop by my office on the 2nd floor of the library anytime you want. Any of these methods, and I'd be happy to help you individually, small groups, a class if you want. And I can either show you how to use the databases, or if you want help building a search, running the search, or just finding full text for articles, I can help you with any of that. I showed you the medical library homepage. That has a lot of information, links to databases, guides, including this one that's linked down below, PubMed versus Embase, which covers what we did today. But there's other guides for different topics that's there, as well as information on new books, citation help, a lot of different things. So if you have questions or need help, please feel free to reach out to me. And I thank you for your time.